Chapter 2 Work is Turned into Play. Saturday morning came bright, summery, and no school. There was a song in every heart. Tom appeared on the sidewalk with a bucket of whitewash and a big brush. He looked at the fence, 30 yards of boards 9 feet high, and all the gladness left him. Sighing, he wet his brush and painted the top board. He painted another, and then looked at the long way to go. He sat down, ready to give up. Jim came out of the gate with a tin pail and singing. He was on his way to the town pump to get water, and Tom always hated getting water. But he forgot his hate now. He remembered there was company at the pump, and excited, Tom said, "Say, Jim, I'll go get the water if you whitewash some." Jim shook his head and said, "Can't, Tom. Old Miss Polly told me to get the water, and not fool anybody. She said she expected you to ask me to whitewash, and she told me to go along and attend to my own business. She would take care of the whitewashing." "Oh, never mind what she says, Jim. That's all the way she always talks. Give me that bucket. I won't be gone a minute. She won't ever know." "Oh, I don't dare, Tom. She'd take my head off. Indeed she would." She never licks or hits anybody. Hits him over her head with a thimble. And who cares for that? I'd like to know. "She talks awful, but talk doesn't hurt, Jim. I'll give you a marble. A white alley." Jim became interested. "A white alley, Jim, and besides, I'll show you my sore toe." And a marble and a gross toe? What boy would refuse? Jim was only human, and this was too much for him. He put down the pail, took the marble, and bent over to look at the toe. In another moment, he was flying down the street with the pail, and Tom was working hard, and Aunt Polly was going back into the house with the slipper she just used to hit them with. But Tom's work did not last. He began to think of the fun he had planned for this day, and then of the work he had to do. He became sad. He knew that soon the boys would come along and make fun of him having to work. He looked in his pocket to see what he could trade to get someone to do the work. There wasn't enough. Then, at this dark moment, he got a bright idea. He took up his brush and went to work. Ben Rogers, the very boy who would make the most fun of him, came in sight. Presently, with a hop, a skip, and a jump, Ben eating an apple and making believe he was the steamboat and the captain and the engine and the bells. But Tom went right on whitewashing and paid no attention to the steamboat. Ben stared a moment and then said, "Hiya, you're up a stump, aren't you?" Tom didn't answer. He looked at his last touch with the eye of an artist. Then he gave another sweep of the brush and stopped to look at his strokes. As before, Ben moved up besides Tom. Tom's mouth watered for that apple, but he stuck to his work, and Ben said, "Hello, old chap. You've got to work, eh?" Tom wheeled suddenly and said, "Why, it's you, Ben. I didn't notice. Say, I'm a-going swimming, I am. Don't you wish you could? But of course you'd rather work. You would." Tom looked at Ben a while and said, "I like it. Does a boy get a chance to whitewash a fence every day?" Well, this put the work in a new light. Ben stopped eating his apple, and Tom swept the brush lightly back and forth, step back to look at the results, and added a touch here and a touch there. Ben watched every move, getting more and more interested. At last he said, "Say, Tom, let me whitewash a little?" Tom considered for a moment and was about to consent, but changed his mind. No, I can't, Ben. You see, Aunt Polly's awful particular about this fence. If it were the back fence, it would be all right, but this front one has to be done very carefully. I guess there isn't one boy in 1,000, maybe 2,000, that can do it the way it's got to be done. No, is that so? Come on now. Let me just try it a little, and I'll let you if you were me, Tom. Ben, I'd love to, honest Injun, but Aunt Polly, well, Jim wanted to do it, but she wouldn't let him. Sid wanted to do it, and she wouldn't let him. Now, don't you see how I'm fixed? If anything should happen to this fence. Oh, shucks. I'll be careful. Now let me try. Say, I'll give you the core of my apple. Well, no, Ben, I'm afraid I'll give you all of my apple. Tom gave up his brush as if he didn't want to. But with cheer and consent in his heart, and while Ben worked and burned in the sun, Tom sat on a barrel in the shade eating Ben's apple and planning new traps. There was no lack of material for boys who came along every little while. They came to poke fun, but stayed to whitewash. While Ben was tired out, Tom traded for the next chance to Billy Fisher for a kite. And when he played out, Johnny Miller bought in for a dead rat. And so on, hour after hour. The middle of the afternoon came, and Tom was rolling in wealth. He had 12 marbles, a piece of blue glass to look through, a wooden gun, a key that wouldn't unlock anything, a mouth organ, a piece of chalk, a glass bottle closer, a tin soldier, 2 little frogs, 6 firecrackers, a kitten with only one eye, a brass doorknob, a dog collar, the handle of a knife, 4 orange peels, and a ruined old window sash. And the fence had 3 coats of whitewash on it. Tom said to himself that it is not such a bad world after all. He had found a great law of human attraction. In order to make a man or boy want a thing, it is only necessary to make it hard to get. The boy thought over, and for a while, the big change which had taken place, and then went into the house to report. That boy didn't learn a thing. All right, he didn't actually serve his punishment. The question is, how and why did he do this?